Hey everybody, this is Perch. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, so I talk about a lot of these things, but then I can tell from the comments and actually some of the emails I get that the message doesn't always come through. I think for some of you who go to these same locations I do and see these things with your own eyes, it becomes second nature. But for others, they don't get it, and it's so it sounds like I'm just complaining or that these problems are much more difficult than they actually are. They're not. So what I wanted to do is I went ahead and I stopped in quickly at a Barnes& and Noble. This is a large bookstore. It's a chain. You can see it all around the country. They're typically all the same. One of the things about these big box stores is that they do, part of their value and how they manage their chain is that they keep everything pretty consistent. So in my area, this is a Seattle area. There are several Barnes& and Noble shops. And typically they all are about the same in terms of their space. Now, something I noticed really happening at Barnes& and Noble about 5 years ago is that manga started to come in. And what I've noticed, what you've seen over the last really 3 years, is that manga is rapidly growing, and the traditional U.S. comics, North American comics, are shrinking. Once upon a time at Barnes& and Noble, and unfortunately I don't have the before videos, I wish I did, there used to be about 12 shelves. So with Barnes& and Noble, they have this large shelf front and back, and there are 12 shelves for Western comics. Today, it's down to 4 in some stores or 2 in others, and then some with 3, but between 4 and 2. Whereas manga is much larger. So what you're seeing right now in kind of slow motion is the Western comic shelves. And as we turn the corner here, we see the manga. And the manga is in this store double-sided. We've got close to 20 shelves that are manga compared to 4 that are the North American comics, which is actually less than normal. The manga wraps around multiple times in this shop. And it's staggering to see that level of difference. Now, I want to just address a couple of people have said, well, you're showing this from the Pacific Northwest. It's going to be a more Asian population. That's bullshit, to just put it mildly. It's yes, there are a heavier Asian population here, but from visiting Barnes & Noble in places like, I don't know, Denver, Colorado, or Florida, you see the same thing going on. That's the point of this is a big box store. Now, this is striking in and of itself, and I'm just going to have the video on here and kind of loop a little bit while I talk about this stuff. But then I want to share a couple more things with you. The first being, I want to just show you a side-by-side of what the shelf looks like with manga versus North American comics. And this is really important that you see it. Okay, so first, what you're looking at right now is manga. Now, this is, what you'll notice is there's many different series, but you'll notice very similar sizing. And the titles, when it's one particular manga title, here is Black Butler that you're seeing on the screen, and a couple others. You'll notice very consistent font, imagery, spine design. So it basically stacks up on the shelf on its side, and it's very clear the volume number and everything else that's there. It's easy to sort. Now, not only is this good for customers, the customers are able to come in and quickly tell what's going on, but it's also very good for the bookstore. And this is the part that a lot of people forget. That there's 2 parts to this. Yes, you do need to attract customers, absolutely, but you also need to make it easy for the bookstore to want to stock this stuff. Many of the people who are doing this job, working in this bookstore, they're making minimum wage or maybe a little bit more, but this isn't an amazing life where somebody's getting paid huge amounts of money. And so anything you can do to make their life better and easier is going to be extremely appreciated. They're going to keep the shelves stocked faster. They're going to make sure that the stuff is displayed more on end caps and other things. And this is going to be a help to them. So if we flip over and we look at the North American comic shelf, what you'll quickly notice is a gigantic cluster. So there's a lot more sizes. And it's kind of hard to see because they're all packed in there, but there's many different sizes in width, in height, in spine design, and it is all over the place. And even within particular companies, Marvel, for example, some of them have the nice Marvel logo at the top there, but many of them do not. Several of them just put it in random places. DC is sometimes at the bottom, Marvel's at the top. It's all over the place. And it's a mess. And if you just look at the shelf, it looks busier, it looks more chaotic, and it looks, frankly, as I talked to the person, I asked if the nice Barnes& Noble person would actually record something for me. They told me they were not allowed to. But the comment was, we've got boxes of North American content in the back. We don't supply it because it's not moving. The stuff isn't changing. And in many cases, if one particular thing sells out, if one comic sells out, then the shelves just kind of get reshuffled a little bit. They don't actually keep the stuff that's selling out well in stock. So the woman commented that they take the titles that they think are selling more based on kind of just observation. They don't really get much else. And they put those flat rather than vertical. So it becomes easier for them to pay attention to when something is going out of stock. Then they know to come in and kind of add to it. In this shop, the things that were really going were there was some American Gods titles that were selling really well, and White Knight was selling really well. I know Sean listens to his channel, but this is not to kiss up to him. You can see in the pictures yourself. Those two were selling well, a couple other Batman things, but most else was not. And the comment for the woman directly was, we kind of ignore this section. And you can tell just in the display. Now, what's interesting is, before, we don't have a bag on all things, North American. Walking Dead does a better job than most. So if you're looking at this screen, what you see is the fairly similar trade dress. They're using different colors, but notice the titles at the top, the numbers reasonably big at the bottom, and it's easy to tell what you're buying. This is one of the closest things to manga. This is better. And as a result, you're seeing, your Walking Dead was very successful in trades. The mystery is that The Walking Dead has been doing this for quite a long time, and more people are not adopting it. In many cases, there's no number at the bottom, or it's missing entirely. You look over at Batman, and it's like, it's a crazy amount of every single thing is done differently. Sometimes you've got kind of little design at the top. Other times the logo's at the top. Sometimes it's at the bottom. You have things like, the Black Mirror, very good story. Just kind of, it's sitting out there. Where does this belong in continuity? Who knows? It's not built to sell multiple copies of Batman. That's the problem. It's insane. Just wandering around other places in Barnes & Noble, you see that in addition to the manga going, Japanese culture type items, toys, and other things are selling quite well. But the other striking part is just it's just a big change in what's being visited at the store. So I hopped across the street in this case, and I headed over to Target. Target being just another store that sells books. What's interesting to me there is how the Marvel brand has suffered over the last, and DC, over the last couple of years. Down at the Lego aisle, they've got the comic book, the Marvel stuff at the very, very far end of a very large Lego aisle that is in two places. And it's just, it's barely there. Whereas, Harry Potter and Minecraft and Mario and even the Ninjago stuff dwarfs it in terms of what's there. In the toy aisle, it's sadder because everything, Marvel, plenty of stuff on the shelf. DC, plenty of stuff on the shelf. Transformers, empty. Power Rangers, pretty empty. There's this clear empty spaces on the shelves when you get to those two, which is sad. But Target, by contrast, also sells books. And what you see there is this is where you suddenly land the YA. And I didn't want to be the total creep of going into the Barnes & Noble kid area and filming the YA books, but it was similar to this. But in this area, you see a lot of books on display. Once again, what do you see? Very similar sizes, very similar formats in the trade dress and the names and everything else, easy to stock and easy to shelve. So you got plenty of stuff by Raina Telgemeier. You've got lots of young reader content. And when you get over to Dogman, again, the title is at the very top. So when they're stacked up, Dogman still points through. Same thing with Captain Underpants. A lot of these books are built in such a way that they fit the shelf and they make it easy to stock. What was interesting at this Target was there was an empty space in the shelf. And I said, hey, what's going to go here? To the person who was working the store. And they said, oh, this is going to be our new manga section. What do you know? So Target is apparently going to start to carry manga along with things like Dogman and Raina Telgemeier and all that material. So just interesting to see that there. And of course, there was this sad collection of stupid Funkos that I decided to get there. And then there's poor little Captain Marvel kind of hanging out there with Michael Myers. So that was my trip to the stores. Again, I've talked about all this stuff. It's just I can tell from the comments people don't get it, or they think I'm making this stuff up. But there, with your own eyes, that's what's going on. It's a very interesting transformation happening right now at the bookstore. So let me know your questions, your thoughts. You can see this for yourself. Just check it out. It's there. But most importantly, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.